In today's video, we're going to be talking about starting your golf swing, the first takeaway movement and how important it is in influencing your impact position. Make sure you check out this video. A couple of times before I go ahead and pull the trigger. Now, I'm definitely not going to hit another one because I don't hit it much straighter than that. So, Jon Watts here from the TruGolf Academy. You've joined me in the studio, and today's video is going to be all about the takeaway position, the first movement of the golf swing. It's such a vital part, and I was just coaching another lesson, and again, it was working a lot on takeaway, and it just really reinforced that I want to do more and more content around this area. I've done some videos on it before, but not for a little while. I'm going to demonstrate some real simple drills to improve your takeaway position and talk you through how actually that takeaway position is influencing impact. Impact obviously vital for where the ball goes, the start direction, what the strike was like, the distance the ball goes. So when we're making a backswing change, we're only making that to make impact better. You know, I wouldn't change the backswing if we were in a great delivery position, a really good impact position. I wouldn't care. But the chap I was just teaching, I see this quite regularly, had the club working behind him and the club face open. And then pre-impact, had that same position. The club was a little bit more in front of him, but the face is open. Bad shots for a right-handed golfer were high and right, adding a lot of loft. So 10.5-degree driver, but was turning it into about 25 degrees. Now I see that quite commonly. You'd think that's a crazy number, but when I'm actually measuring dynamic loft on the golf club, I often see that golfers doubling the loft of their driver and they're wondering why they're losing distance and not getting the run. Now, he occasionally hits the straight one, but he's having to hit it, of course, with a lot of manipulation through impact. So the role of that takeaway is so vital, and I'm going to share with you some real drills to help that. If this video does help, make sure you hit the thumbs up, share it with as many golfers as you can. If you're new to my channel, you haven't already, please do consider subscribing. It is for free and it just notifies you every time a new video goes live if you hear that little bell icon. So as I said, 2 instructional videos a week all around helping your game this season. I'm going to, quickly go on to what I'd like as the checkpoints in that takeaway. So for me as a right-handed golfer, I'd like my lead arm, that's my left arm, to stay connected towards my chest rather than my arms separating a long way away from my body. That does not mean I'm creating tension. It just means my hands are tracking on a slightly inward arced angle. They're not going straight away from the target. They're working on a slight arc. That keeps some connection between my lead arm and my chest. Now, I'd like very quiet hands, and all I mean by quiet hands is that I'm not really getting a lot of wrist hinge, forearm rotation in that first movement away from the ball. So connection of lead arm. If my hands are quiet, you would see the club head is slightly outside my hands, and the club face angle I'd like to more match my spine angle. So around 55-60 degrees. What he was getting, and I see this pretty commonly, is the toe more up, the club face a little bit more open. So I'd like that club face to be a little bit turned down, more matching spine angle in that first position. And I'd like to get back into that same position pre-impact to really mean it's more manageable through impact. I can just rotate without having to actually slow my body. So what he was doing as a good player was learning that his body had to stall and his hands had to get overactive through impact to try and square the club face. What we want to see is that face in a better position where he could start to turn and rotate with some more speed, so creating that rotational forces we're really looking for. And a drill that worked great for this particular golfer, and it's worked well for a lot, is using a T-peg in the grip. Now actually I'll use a different colour, just so it's a bit more visual. So, he says with a T-peg in his mouth, you're going to put a glove on, and then just in that bit of the folder where the Velcro goes, I want you to push a T-peg in, and I want you to fold the Velcro over. So it's going to almost look a bit like a pointer there. So we're actually getting the T-peg just pointing up through the glove. And the feeling is going to be that I get the glove logo, the T-peg, pointing at the golf ball for longer in that first movement. So I'm trying to get that sensation of the glove, the T-peg pointing more down. That means my hands and arms are much quieter rather than this movement where the tee peg is pointing up, which is the most common fault I see. You know, it's not always the case, but the most common one is definitely the club coming in and open. The tee peg is starting to point behind the ball and more up. So the feeling for this particular golfer and for a lot was the tee peg pointing more at the ball. And in pre-impact, the same sort of thing really, the tee peg pointing more down towards the golf ball. I'm talking about the takeaway, but you can see how this influences impact, how we actually hit the golf ball. So what worked well for him as a drill, let me hit one, was actually rehearsing the takeaway move with the tee peg pointing more at the ball, pre-impact the tee peg pointing more at the ball, and just learning that from there, he can actually just turn and rotate the body to square the face. He's not having to use his hands quite as quickly through impact. So we're actually getting more club head speed, but a slower rate of closure, less hand speed through impact. So the hands are obviously working, but they're working at a slower rate. They're not overworking here, causing the body to stall. So that takeaway position is so, so vital. I love that tee peg in the end of the grip as a checkpoint, that it's pointing more down towards the ball. You can see what that's allowed. My lead arm is connected. The club is outside my hands and the club face is more matching my spine angle. So that's what I'm really looking for in that takeaway move. Now I'm just going to finish with a couple other drills and exercises. And if you're not new to my channel, you may well have seen me do these before. But if you could just use a toe stick and alignment stick across your chest, just above your elbows, get it nice and level. And what I want you to get the feeling of is that it's starting to point a little bit more down. So the lead side that's closest to the target is starting to point more down, okay? That allows a couple other things. That allows my trail arm just to soften rather than to extend. A lot of players, when they're trying to get width, are trying to move their arms a long way from their body and getting that disconnection. So the trail arm is folding to allow my lead arm to stay straight. But if this side starts to point more down, again, feeling like it's going towards the golf ball, I've still got that same connection. I've still got those same wrist angles and club face position. You couldn't hit a shot this way unless it was a little quarter one, but just getting that feeling from that movement and then making the golf swing would work really well. And my old favorite, this always works, cane up the side of the golf club. So it's under your lead arm, my left arm that's closest to the target. And I'm just going to take the club away and make sure I keep the cane in contact with my body. So I'm actually just keeping this cane in contact with my lead side to around where the club gets parallel to the ground. If the club comes in and behind me, you can see this cane comes well away. So it works great in terms of that connection of the takeaway position. If it's an area of the game you need to work on, how I would take it to the golf course is I'd be set up, I'd rehearse the takeaway move, stop, check the position. Checkpoints were lead arm connection, club outside hands, leading edge at the same angle as my spine. So I'd rehearse that move a couple of times before I go ahead and pull the trigger. Now I'm definitely not going to hit another one because I don't hit it much straighter than that. So really felt very solid. I don't want a lot of time between the rehearsal and the hit. The idea is feel it, relax, pull the trigger. So it's perhaps not a conscious swing thought, but it's the last thing you do before you actually pull the trigger, before you hit the golf shot. So it can be really powerful for you to do on any full golf shot. I wouldn't worry about doing that when you're putting, chipping, those kind of things, but it's something you can do on any full golf shot, couple of rehearsal moves, and those drills is what I would do at home or on the driving range to really improve that first movement away from the golf ball. As I mentioned at the start, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing. If you enjoyed the content of this video, hit the thumbs up and share with as many golfers as you can. Cheers guys, we'll see you soon.